Now, when most people think of the name Harley-Davidson, they think traditional, old school, classic technology, big V-twins, lots of torque, not so much power. What they don't think of is Germany, Stuttgart, Porsche. However, Harley-Davidson changed it all in 2001 when they introduced the V-Rod. Let's check out this 2009 V-Rod muscle and see what happens when Germany and America work together instead. Now, what is a V-Rod? It is a joint project with Porsche and Harley-Davidson working together to produce a motorcycle. Now, it was first introduced in 2001 and went up until 2017 when Harley discontinued it for the new entry-level bike, the Street. Now, this particular bike is the V-Rod Muscle. Now, the V-Rod Muscle came on later on in the year. It's about 2009 was the first year this bike came out. Now, they started with an 1130cc motor. This one here is a 1250, so it's got the upgraded motor. Now, a spotter's guide for you looking for a muscle compared to a regular V-Rod. How does it differ? Well, for starters, the bodywork. You see the bodywork looks very different, a lot more sharp edges and more angular. It's not so smooth cut out. We have these two cool air ducts in the front. They're not functional, but they look really sweet. This is also the first time that Harley-Davidson integrated their turn signals into the rearview mirrors for a very clean look. And the same thing on the back. In the back, they did a great job of integrating that turn signal and brake light right into that chopped rear fender. And of course, when you talk about the back of the V-Rod, you cannot forget to mention that massive 240mm rear tire. And it's also accompanied by these two cool dual side pipes. A regular V-Rod would have a 2-to-1-to-2 exhaust. This is a true dual exhaust all the way down. And if you look in the back of this bike, which you normally would be, because of course this thing is going to be passive, as I said, this is definitely a dragster type bike. It just looks really cool and has this awesome presence from the back. Controversial part of the Harley-Davidson V-Rod, the power plant, proudly displayed right inside the frame here. Now, upon looking from the closer eye, you can spot two things right away. It's a 60-degree versus the opposed more 45-degree, and radiator up in front, this bike is liquid cooled. Now, this is where the Harley purists and their more traditional riders didn't really like this bike so much. It is liquid cooled, it's a 6-degree motor, dual overhead cams, fuel injection obviously, 4 valves per cylinder, 11.5 to 1 compression. So this bike is completely different from anything that Harley used to make. That's because Harley didn't really make it. This was actually engineered by Porsche, who worked with Harley-Davidson together to produce this bike. Important figures: 1250 cc's, 125 horsepower, and about 87 pound-feet of torque. Now, compare this to the other bikes in Harley's whole lineup. The Sportster is the smallest displacement, 883 and then 1200. This is a 1250, so this is actually the third smallest motor as far as displacement goes. However, with the 125 horsepower, it's actually the most powerful Harley-Davidson that they made. And as a result, it's also the fastest, 0 to 60 and at lowest 3.4 seconds, and would run low to mid 11s in the quarter mile. This bike is a true dragster and would still get pretty good mileage, 34 in the city and about 40 in the highway. Now, one interesting thing about this bike is this gas tank you see here. It's not actually a gas tank. This is the air box. The gas tank is located underneath the seat to keep that center of gravity nice and low. You can see that's definitely a Porsche thing and how their influence worked on this bike. Alright, but when it comes to bikes, what's the most important thing? How does it ride? Well, pretty awesome. Now, despite the numbers I talked about earlier, you have to remember this is still a Harley. Yes, Porsche helped design it, and yeah, it's going to smoke some sport bikes off the line. However, at the end of the day, it's still a big cruiser. And I would really describe this bike as a dragster. Now, what that means is it's great in a straight line, it's very quick, but it's by no means a sport bike. You know, you only have 32 degrees of lead angle, and as a result, corner carving not really going to be your thing on this bike. However, as long as you go in a straight line, this thing is awesome. A ton of power this thing makes. Now, most Harleys, when you get to about 5,000-6,000 RPM, you're just about to redline. This bike is just getting warmed up. It's going to rev all the way to 9,000 RPM. However, you really don't need to do that. It does have a lot of torque on the low end and a lot of power. The really nice thing about this bike as well is it has a slipper clutch, which is very unusual for a Harley to have. That's more of a sport bike thing generally. If you don't know what that means, it's going to take care of you when you're downshifting, and if you're maybe not rev matching properly, it's not going to rev match for you, but it's going to take care of any wheel hop that might occur otherwise, and it's a really cool feature that this bike has. Now, when you are slowing down, of course, you have twin discs up front, and they're actually supplied by Brembo, which is pretty interesting. Now, this thing, like I said, makes a lot of power, much more of a dragster type bike. And as a result, most of your owners will tell you to ride it, you gotta ride it like you're stolen. Really use the power of this thing just to see what it has. When you're slowing down, lots of engine braking,